Okay. Well, hello, this webinar, I suppose, is what we're going to call it. I think that's what we're calling it. Katie and I were talking the other day, and both of us are self-employed, but in slightly different ways. And we thought that given a lot of people are now having to work from home, who perhaps previously haven't worked from home, and we thought actually maybe we could share our words of wisdom to help and support you as to how we've learned to do that in an effective way. And some of the things might just be light bulbs for you, which could just help during this really rather strange time that we're going through. So a little bit about me, first of all, and then I'll pass over to Katie. I am a medical nutritionist. I'm a mother of 4 children who I've brought up on my own. And I practiced as a nutritionist for many years in clinics, but I was self-employed. Prior to being a nutritionist, I was also self-employed doing varying other things, events organizing and stuff like that. So I've always been self-employed. I've always had to do it myself. I've never had a boss scenario. And so for me, I'm kind of old school at this. And now obviously I've got an online business, which is self-employed too. And coaching and mentoring, that kind of stuff. So I'm old school. I've been doing this for a long number of years, plus weaving it in amongst children. Katie's a very different background, so I'll just hand you over to Katie.
So hi, I'm Katie, and I'm a retired military officer. So I spent 20 years in the army, and therefore in a sort of very traditional hierarchical working environment, you know, where there was a boss, you were working to other people's missions, you were on a set salary, we had a job spec, etc., etc. And so basically all we had to do was pitch up and do our job spec, and it was our job spec. And I suppose the fact that you worked in an office, sometimes in an office environment, but there's obviously people around you that would hold you accountable for that. I left the army 5 years ago and wanted to do self-employment, and I am now self-employed. It's been a bit of a rocky road in between, because it's also been a learning curve from sort of transitioning out of the employee mindset to actually being constructive and productive in your home environment, which as an employee prior to that, your home was where you rested and watched movies or were on holiday to. So I've had to transition in the last 5 years from being a good employee to being a good self-employee. And so that's what we're going to talk about as well. So back to you, Tara.
Brilliant. So Katie and I were kind of talking about how we're going to do this, how we can help you best. And we just thought what would be really good is if we kind of tag team it a little bit, just say how we structure our days, and some of the things that we do personally in different sections of the day, which you might think, yeah, I could do that, or no, I don't want to do that. And it would just help you manage it. So first of all, we're going to talk about something called Miracle Morning, which for those of you who don't know what it is, it's basically stuff you do in the morning. I personally love Miracle Morning. It's a time when a lot of people would be commuting or getting themselves ready to work, and I'm at home or wherever I am using that time to do stuff for me. Really, that's what it's about for me. But anyway, I'll let Katie tell you about her Miracle Morning first, and then I'll go after that.
So I didn't obviously know about miracle mornings or that terminology until I read the book Miracle Morning, and I've since then sort of used the Miracle Morning in my lifestyle. And again, I use the sort of the first hour from getting up. I'm now getting up at 5:30. I was sort of 5:30. Now, when I was in the military, I would get up sometimes that time to go for a run, and that is part of doing a Miracle Morning. It can be going for exercise. But it's about you time and getting your head psyched up into your day ahead. So I knew I'm a single person. I'm the sole income earner and the sole responsible adult in my house of 4 dogs and horses. So I do my Miracle Morning before I go and get up to let dogs out and feed horses, etc. So I do things like visions, gratitudes. I sometimes do a bit of a meditation. I'll sometimes read, and I do affirmations. Now in the winter, in the dark hours, I probably did a longer Miracle Morning than I do now, because it's now getting light about 5:45 in the morning, and obviously animals they don't care if you're doing a Miracle Morning or not. So I do a slightly shorter Miracle Morning now. But so basically you flex it to suit you. So I generally listen to a meditation, puts you in the right mood and a positive upbeat mood for for the day, and gratitudes and affirmations, and sort of visualize how I want my day to go, so that, you know, it's not just a mad gallop through the day. Tara?
Yeah, so I'm with you. For me, Miracle Morning is something that's seasonal. I tend to, no matter what time of year, I tend to get up about 5, 6 in the morning, because that's the time I enjoy getting up at. So for those of you who are now at home and you've got that extra hour or whatever in your morning, I would say still get up at the same time you would have done for going to work, but just use this for your time. And so mine varies. So in the summer, I like to get up, jump out of bed at whatever time it is, 5, 4:30, 5:30, and get myself up Arthurseat, which is a mountain in Edinburgh where I live, and go for a walk up there and watch the sunrise first thing every morning. And when I'm up there, I do a kind of breathing meditation when I'm up there, and also go for a good 45-minute walk. So that's kind of my summertime Miracle Morning. In the winter months, I'm like Katy, my Miracle Morning happens in my bed. So the alarm will go off. I tend to push it back to about 6:30 in the winter months. The alarm goes off, and what I'll do is I will just instantly hit play on a guided meditation, and I will lie there and do a guided meditation from my bed. After I've done that, I will say my gratitudes or my affirmations. Now, gratitudes are just something, what are you grateful for right at that moment? And it could just be, I'm really grateful that I'm still in my bed and it's cold and it's dark outside. So just 3 things that you're grateful for at that moment. They don't have to be big things. It's about the small things. I'm grateful that I've got a loo that flushes. I'm grateful that I've remembered to buy toothpaste. You know, I'm grateful I've got a loo roll. Those kind of things. So just keep them small. Don't overthink those. And other things that you can do in Miracle Mornings is, you could get up, get out of bed, wrap a cozy blanket around yourself, go and sit down on a sofa and read a book, but really nothing to do with work. So that's what's really important about it. So don't check your emails, don't check Facebook, don't go down the social media rabbit hole until you have done some time for you, whether that's 15 minutes or an hour or 2 hours, depending on what it is you want. Exercise is a great thing, as Katy said too. So it's going to vary from person to person. And obviously you can message either of us to ask us for some other suggestions for Miracle Mornings. But it's about your personal growth, your mind health, and your body's health, and just looking after you at that time. If you've got small children at home, then get them involved maybe in your Miracle Morning as well. So you could there are lots of great meditations for children. You could have quiet time where everybody just sits on a sofa and looks at books. So you can get kids involved in it too. And again, happy to discuss that with you. So that's our first thing in the morning covered. Next up, we start going into our day. So Katy, I mean, you've got several businesses which you're running, but you've also got hundreds of horses and animals and things. So those are your small children, and you have to fit everything around. Plus you live in the middle of nowhere. So any kind of meetings and things for you are always done remotely, or involve at least a 2 to 3 hour drive for you. So yeah, tell us about how you structure your day.
Okay, so structuring your day is important. And so I've worked out a lot, because of where I am geographically, that I can only really do a couple of major things in a day. So if I've got to go to Edinburgh or Glasgow, then that is really the focus for the day. Or even if I'm going to Castle Douglas, which is 15 miles down the road, 30-minute drive effectively, that will take up a morning or an afternoon. So I have to plan. If I need to do an admin run for Castle Douglas and go shopping, I have to plan that in, and I'll, say I do it tomorrow, I'll plan it in either in the morning or the afternoon. So I plan the day ahead of the day itself, so the night before, but we'll come back to sort of that. And then I have to segment my day. So my first thing, up to normally about 10, 11 o'clock, is animals. And I'm doing dogs, horses. I'll have done my Miracle Morning, feed the dogs, let the dogs out, and then horses. And I've got 4 horses, so they take me anywhere. If I'm doing it properly and thoroughly, 2 hours. I can skip and shorten it down if I've got to be out the house earlier. Clearly, if I have to be up in Edinburgh for 10 o'clock, which is a 2-hour drive, I have to bring everything forward. And so therefore I might not do a Miracle Morning that morning, because I just might have to get out of bed and get going straight away. So structuring your day, And then because, doing horses is smelly and dirty, if I'm then coming in to do, say, 4 hours of research work, which is one of my business, is cybersecurity research, then I get changed. I de-smell myself. I have breakfast after I've done my animals, and I get myself into work mindset. And then I sit down and focus. And sometimes to get myself into focus mode, I will use things like binaural beats that I'll listen to just to get the chatter out of my brain, so that I then focus on doing some research work. And then I also, in my diary, I have, Tara and I are fairly similar. I like having a beautiful diary, and I will put in, when I'm doing my research work, when I'm doing my Arbonne work, when I'm doing my horses, when I'm doing any horse work, which obviously at the moment I'm not doing because of social distancing and stuff, and segment it. So, if you've got family and children and couple, you're a couple and you need couple time, you need to segment that. The worst thing that you can do, I think, as a singly living on your own in your own space with nobody else there, is that you just keep working, and you end up working to hours and hours into the night. And I've done that before, been really guilty of it, and you exhaust yourself because you just keep going and you never take a break. And I've been very guilty of that, and it's not healthy. So segmenting it with a 10 to 30 your day, allocating your time. Don't kill yourself if your time slips. My time slipped today because of friends pitching up that I didn't expect. Change your shift from mucking out horses to work or travel time, whatever it is. And if you're traveling, I listen to audiobooks when I'm traveling to get the retraining and the everything going. So so that's how I do mine shift. I have to be quite accountable to myself. I've got better at it as I've come along through the years, because I've got no other physical human being demanding dinner or attention or anything else. So anyway, Tara, you do obviously have girls.
So for me, I mean, and I think a very valid point. If you're at home and you're with your partner and your children, it really is important to get the diaries clear, and maybe even get one coloured in, a weekly diary just coloured in and stuck on the fridge. So as partners, husbands, children, whatever, know when their times are. So if you're trying to work on your laptop and you're not used to doing that from home and you're used to having the office, you don't want your other half or whatever coming in and trying to have a conversation with you about something. So having those scheduled times that, okay, at 11 o'clock, we have a coffee break for half an hour. And we sit at the kitchen table and we have a coffee break together. As a family, we're going to have lunch together, where everybody actually sits down and has lunch together. We're going to have a tea break. Because here's the thing. When you're working from home, your 8-hour day, don't tell your bosses if you are working still for somebody else, you can get it done in 4 hours. So that's the other thing you're going to find is if you do this focused time of, right, for the next 30 minutes or an hour, nothing. My phone's off, everything's gone, nothing except this. You'll actually get a lot more done probably in that hour than you would do in 2 or 3 hours, possibly in an office environment. Yeah. You've got calls and all the rest of it coming in. So scheduling your time, you'll actually find you'll have more time. And that means you then get more downtime. And in that downtime, it's so important. So if you haven't got anybody living with you, it is important to take that time out. To get on a trampette if you've got one and do some rebounding. To go for a walk around the block if we aren't completely shut down. To listen to some music. To go and play your piano. To do some knitting. So all those hobbies that you've always wanted to do, now's your chance to actually start doing them. Because as I say, you'll be able to be so much more productive in a short period of time once you get the hang of this, that you actually will find you have spare hours in the day working from home. And the other thing Katie mentioned is about getting her smelly stuff off. It is really important that you do get dressed. Don't be tempted to be in your dressing gown or in your pajamas till 12 noon. Now, I get dressed because I put on a tracksuit or gym gear or whatever, because I normally go to the gym or whatever in the mornings, which I'm not doing now. But if you can still just put that kind of thing on, that's okay. You don't have to get dressed up, but you do want to be putting on clothes which are not clothes you're going to sleep in. And that is really, really important. Also, having a workspace is an optional one. Some people really feel it's important to set up a space that's where they go and do their work. And if that works for you, that's great. I personally actually can work from my sofa very, very happily. But I've been doing this for 30 years, no, not quite 30 years, 25 years. So so I'm quite used to doing this from home thing. So you know, designated space if required. And those are my kind of tips is to split up your space, your blitzers with something enjoyable. You're working from home. The whole point of working from home is it's an enjoyable thing, and as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and don't beat yourself up if your program changes. I think I was too rigid with myself, and it's probably because of coming out of the military. And if something had slipped, I would kick myself up the backside, going, "Well, that didn't happen on time," or it's whatever. And then you just have to let it ride, because just things do happen. You know, I was supposed to have gone earlier to pick up, in fact, the garden seat I'm sitting on, which I'm very grateful for because it's sunny. And then a friend turned up to chat to me and chatted for quite a while about stuff. So that through that day. So don't kick yourself into touch because your schedule has shifted. And then for holding yourself accountable, we've recently just started through our Arbonne business is doing the blitzing, where we actually get on a Zoom call with each other and we don't actually talk. What we do is we just can see the 3 or 4 people on that Zoom call sitting in their home environment. And just in that 15 to 20 minutes are focused on whatever work we need to do for that business. And that is just, it's almost like having your open plan office coming to you at home. And it means other people are there. So because you're sat, you know, there's no point in doing it if you've got the video off. So you have to have the video on. Hang on a minute. My children are making a noise. Hey, 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 hey. Thank you. Sorry. They're having a gallop in the sun. And be presentable in terms of dress, and then just get on with your work. So they're really good for being held accountable, and I find them very helpful.
Yeah, I think, yeah, for people who are maybe used to working with 2 or 3 people around them, getting in touch with those 2 or 3 people and just having the Zoom on whilst you're doing that. So then if there is a problem and somebody does need to do a brainstorm, you just suddenly speak up and say, look, I'm working on this, blah, 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 and you can have a brainstorm. Likewise, you know, if you haven't got somebody to have lunch with, that kind of thing, really important you have a Zoom lunch with a friend or a coffee with a friend during the day. Katy and I quite often will message each other and I'll just say, you know, what are you doing in half an hour's time? Do you fancy a Zoom coffee? And we'll have a Zoom coffee together. So getting that into there as well, I think is really, really important. And then the next stage, of course, is going to be your wind down, the end of the day. Because as Katy's already said, it can be tempting just to keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. So Katy, how do you kind of wind down and shift from I've been doing my work into it's now nighttime?
I actually have an alarm set on my iPad in the clock, which allows you to set your bedtime and then for your arrival, getting up time, and therefore it sets the hours that you want to sleep in between. So if you're getting up, for example, if you're I like 7, I can do 6 to 8 hours and then I'm good. So if I'm getting up at 5:30 to do a miracle morning, then I need to be going to bed sort of 9:30, 10 o'clock-ish, certainly before the witching hour. And so I have an alarm set. And then when that alarm goes, I give myself, I stop work and then I start doing the wind down. So it could be dogs out, etc., etc. But what I do in that wind down is I look at my diary, and I know people do electronic diaries and stuff like that. I always have a handwritten diary, and I write into my diary my sort of outline segments for that day. So when I'm doing research work, if I've got Airbnb stuff to do, have I got horse stuff to do, is there a workout travel time if I've got to travel anywhere, etc., etc. So I do that before I go to bed, and then once I'm in bed, I will then I might read a little bit to close the brain down. I sometimes use a guided meditation for sleep. And that just helps with the chatter. I've got one of these busy brains that just pings around all the time. So I sometimes need to if I have a guided sleep meditation, it just focuses my mind on sleeping. And I tend to find I sleep better and get up better if I do that. But also doing your gratitudes for that day, or even if it's not your gratitudes, your successes. What are you pleased with that's gone on for that day? And then go to sleep. And if you go to sleep on a good note, you'll get up better. And I find that really important. And I find my miracle morning wasn't as successful until I had almost my miracle evening sorted. Anyway, that's me. What about yourself, Tara?
Well, I'm like you. I do go through all my gratitudes at night time, and I do them on my fingers, and I lie in bed, literally going through, putting a gratitude on each finger before I go to sleep. And often I fall asleep while I'm doing them. And quite often I'll think, well, I fall asleep around about 7 or something like that. So that's a nice way to fall asleep, being in gratitude. I think one of the things which is important, you kind of mentioned there, is the mind dump thing. So you can do a mind dump in the morning with your miracle morning, or you can do a mind dump in the evening, or you can do both. And your mind dump is literally when you get a bit of paper and you just write down everything on it that you think you need to do or remember. You literally just dump it all out of your brain. And then you've got your list of, I need to do this and this and this and this and so on and so forth. And it's not about completing everything on that list. It's then about looking at the list, prioritizing the list, ticking off 2 or 3 things on that list during the course of that day, and then the things that are left can get added onto the list for the next day if they're still important at that point. They might not be important anymore, they might not matter. So I think that's a really good thing to do as well, as the mind dump, because that just gets it out of your brain. I think the reason we're doing this, one of the reasons, we know that it's very easy to feel guilty when you're working from home, that you're not working hard enough.
Yeah.
And both of us have experienced that actually it's the opposite. You need to work less from home in order to achieve more.
Yeah.
You achieve more, you then don't feel guilty. So it is going to be different. There is going to be an adjustment period. So in the evenings, I like to do my gratitudes. I like to read a book as well, the calm down thing. I personally, well, Katy and I, neither of us have got a television, haven't had television for years, don't watch the news, don't watch telly. Anything that's really important I need to find out, we find out about. Somebody either tells you or you find it on Facebook or whatever. So having that wind down time, doing that, watching the news at 9 or 10 o'clock is not going to be good for a wind down. You're much better off not to. And if you do need to watch the news for your work for whatever reason, then watch it at midday. Watch it during the middle of the day. Don't watch it at night time.
I was, when I had a TV, of using the TV to sort of brain dump, sort of switch off your brain. I know lots of people do this, but what I found is I fell asleep on the sofa watching the telly, would wake up at 4 a.m, cold, uncomfortable, sore neck, then go to bed and wake up the next morning having had only 4 hours proper sleep, feeling crap. So that's one of the reasons why I got rid of my TV, was when I realized I'd put it on just to hear voices, and then it would just wipe me out completely. It's why I use guided meditation, because I've got the voice, but it's a far more positive voice.
Absolutely. So, well, I love guided meditations for sleep too, but I also love Audible. So I listen to Audible when I'm out on walks and things like that. Things like Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, those kind of people, they've got the most wonderful mellifluous voices, which is so calming. And quite often I'll press play on one of their Audible books, because you can set it to only play for a chapter, so it plays for 30 minutes or whatever. And I'll have it playing while I'm falling asleep. So I'm falling asleep listening to Deepak Chopra, and that's an amazing one to do as well. But it is so important, because I think there's so much stress around right now, everywhere in our heads, out there, from everybody, that it's more important than ever to keep yourself grounded and centered. And I think some of these techniques that we've suggested will really help with that. And we are both here, so please just message us, because we are more than happy to hop on a Zoom with you and have a morning coffee or have lunch with you, or whatever it happens to be, to help you to hone down some of these techniques, because some of them can be a little bit I don't really, I like the idea of that, but what do you mean, or how do I do what, so just will help you. So please reach out. Anything else you wanted to add, Katy?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me converting from working employee to self-employed employee was making the decision that you actually just had to be good at it, and therefore once you'd made the decision, therefore actually almost retraining yourself. I trained God knows how many years, 11 months training to be an army officer, and then continuous training in the military. We all train in our employed jobs. If you're an employee, if you want to be in self-employee or work from home, you need to retrain your mindset into that sort of work phase. So there is a transition phase. you'll get used to it, but make the decision you're going to be good at it, and that's the mission you're going to go on. I am going to be good at working from home, and then you will do it. And you have to make the decision. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And again, both of us can recommend lots of great books on mindset and things if you need help with that as well. So do just shout out. Anyway, I think that's it. I think we've done our webinar.
I know. My first webinar, working from home outside. Woohoo!
Exactly. And I am in my office right now.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for watching, everybody, and goodbye from us. Bye.
All right.